Welcome back to the Reflection Room. Today we have a special guest, one of my closest friends, and she also works at Tampa Counseling Place with the rest of our therapists, and her name is Samara Schneider. She is a licensed clinical social worker and she specializes in working with kids. So we're super excited to have her, and I have a few questions for her about ADHD in kids. Yeah,
Yay.
excited. All right. So, I wanted to start out by asking, what do you wish more people understood about ADHD in children?
That is a phenomenal question, Hannah. Well, you see, I think oftentimes parents or really anyone assumes that kids are just lazy or they're bored and they don't want to do things, when in reality, the ADHD brain is different. It's not necessarily that there's a deficit, it just the brain operates differently. So I think when we're able to acknowledge that, it looks a little different in how we approach individuals who are struggling.
Yeah. And I feel like I don't know if you've heard the common thing that people will say about mental illness is like diabetes, where
Mm,
diabetics need their medication. People with mental illness sometimes need medication, and it's just the way the brain functions differently.
yep.
That makes sense. I
Yeah.
like that. Well, how can ADHD show up differently in boys versus girls?
Great question. Well, first, I'll share with you there's three different kind of types of ADHD. We have predominantly inattentive. This looks like kids forgetting things or having a hard time paying attention, making careless mistakes. My dog might join us. um, so there's a predominantly inattentive, then there's predominantly hyperactive/impulsive type. That's where you might see kids having a hard time, sitting still. They might react or interrupt you when you're speaking. There's a lot of energy. And the last one is a combined type of both of them. But how it usually shows up in boys versus girls, boys you usually see more of that external traits, the impulsive impulsivity, the acting out. It's a lot more noticeable, which is why boys usually get diagnosed before girls, and girls actually tend to get misdiagnosed more often or diagnosed later on in life because their symptoms are more internalized. That can look like anxiety, low self-esteem, daydreaming, or just kind of keeping to themselves. Yeah, so that's a little bit about the types and the differences.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I've heard more of that recently because I work with adults only, but women getting diagnosed later in life
Yeah.
with ADHD and they
Mhm.
didn't realize they had it.
Yeah.
So,
Chad.org, and then I believe it's understood.org are really great resources. Resources. You can look at the symptoms for adults and teens and children, and it's
oh,
great resources even for professionals like you and I.
whoa, what's it called
Yeah.
again?
Chad, it's CHADD.org, and then understood.org, I believe, is another one.
Okay.
But I really like Chad.
Drop those in the chat.
Yeah.
Sure. Well, last question. What are some simple or yet effective strategies that parents can use to support their kids at home?
Ooh, this is great. There are lots of strategies. The first one is I will say the ADHD brain flourishes off of routine, and that can just help lower anxiety and ease transitions. We all like things to be a little bit predictable, but especially for those where our brain operates a little differently. So I would definitely say having a routines and even visuals, if you can write down what you're expecting from your child, that can be really helpful, or even having them check it off. That releases a little bit of dopamine, and that's helpful
Yeah.
for those who have it. So checklists, setting timers. So somehow having a timer can be really helpful. I would also suggest breaking big tasks into smaller pieces, because oftentimes the ADHD brain will feel stuck or feel like they can't move forward. But breaking it down and just moving it one piece at a time can be helpful. It's kind of like instead of lugging a sack of potatoes across the field, you're taking one at a time, and that's helpful. Let's see. Also, I would also recommend celebrating any wins that you see. So if you notice your child did something without asking, or they did something that felt really big, pointing that out, because oftentimes it's more likely for kids to be really hard on themselves, and especially if they're hearing critiques all the time, it's really helpful to point out that those positive things.
Yeah, I feel like that's a great one in general too. Just the
Yes.
positive
Celebrate.
reinforcement instead
Absolutely.
of the negative punishment constantly.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us today.
Yeah.
I actually learned a lot more about ADHD. But yeah, that is very helpful, and I'm excited to see if we get any comments on that.
Hey. Thank you.
I wanted to add one more question to the end of this, and that is, how would you help a parent who feels like they're failing?
Ooh, that's a great question, Hannah. I would probably tell them they're not failing, they're just parenting on hard mode, and that learning the ADHD brain is a skill set, but you can learn those skills, and there's plenty of resources out there to learn them. I would also say as well that every repair conversation that you're having, right? If you're noticing your child's upset and it doesn't go as planned, but you come back and meet them where they're at and kind of talk through it, that counts. Every hug counts, every positive shout out or,
Mhm.
takeaway, all of those matter. And your child's gonna remember those things more than that struggle. Again, I would remind them they're doing their best.
I just feel like she would be such a great counselor for the kids and the parents.
Do our best.
No wonder the kids love her.
Thank you.
Well, this is again Samara Schneider. She's a licensed clinical social worker. And if you're interested in having your child work with her, she can be found on our website, tampacounselingplace.com, and on our social media, Instagram, now YouTube, and all of those above. So thank you for watching. And again, until next time, keep on reflecting.